Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to the PCB Quality Management Conference. And today's topic is going to be AI and ISO 9001. Are we heading towards completely digital audits? And we have three panelists today who will share their knowledge and expertise about this particular subject. And so we're going to take a few minutes and let them each introduce themselves. And then after that, we will start with a series of questions. And then I'll be looking in the chat, of course. So please, by all means, enter any questions you want in the chat. And then we will get to as many of those questions as we possibly can. All right. So we're going to let our panelists take just a few minutes to introduce themselves. So Roland, would you like to start first?
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Roland, and I'm the managing partner of Paribas Unternehmensberatung based in Munich. My company provides high quality consultations, audits, and evaluations, and in order to support clients in introducing and implementing their management systems. From my point of view, I'm itself an auditor, I'm a consultant, coach, and also an author for remote audits. That's my specialized favorite field in which I'm working. I'm also the board of director of the German Federal Auditors Association, and I'm happy to be part of this panelist group. Thank you very much.
We're so happy to have you, Roland. Thank you so much for that. Wajaha?
Yes, thank you, dear. My name is Wajahat Raja. I'm a consultant at one of the biggest stock exchanges in the world called Saudi Stock Exchange. I'm very much focused on GRC, governance, risk, and compliance area. In the last 20 years, I have assumed my practices into auditing, consulting, implementing management systems, and establishing different part of technological frameworks, worked with multiple multinationals. I would not say all across the globe, but mostly in Middle East. So that's my brief introduction. And I'm very much excited to contribute based on my previous exposure and experiences of ISO 9000 and multiple other frameworks.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for that introduction. All right, Daniel.
My name is Daniel Clark. I'm from Alberta in Canada. I'm an independent safety and quality consultant. Consult with small and medium-sized businesses to either work towards ISO certification in 45001 and 9001, or the local, what we call a core standard in Canada as certificate of recognition for safety. So I kind of help coach and build their systems up. I'm also an auditor through a number of registrars, doing all of the above, helping companies to actually go through that final step of certification. So like I said, my main focus is small and medium businesses, and take them from totally green to just process improvement and overall management system improvement. So like Roland, I fill a coaching role a lot of the time. The rest of the time I'm auditing and do a lot from home over the last little while.
Right. Very good. Thank you so much, Daniel, for that introduction. Thank you all. Okay, so one of our first questions is we were discussing, artificial intelligence. That was a question that came up. So, what is artificial intelligence? Roland, would you like to start off on that conversation?
Thank you. Yeah. Artificial intelligence, from my point of view, is a system which will run automatically decisions and act by itself. I like it to compare, for instance, if you think to Google Drives the car. This, from my point, is an artificial intelligence system.
Wajahat, would you like to comment on that?
Absolutely, I fully endorse. In fact, the area which is more concerned to us is in-depth artificial intelligence is coming in multiple formats, which is directly impacting the quality and the quality management systems implemented across the globe. So that is our really big concern. So in addition to the artificial intelligence, the machine learning and the deep learning, which is a subcategory of the artificial intelligence, is of our prime concern as well as value add. Deep learning is mostly focused on how we are going to learn from our depth of the data and certain other parts which will be byproducts of the artificial intelligence. Machine learning will help us in not only interacting with the machines and to learn from the machines and to learn from our existing systems and the humans, but to ensure that it becomes a bridge between the deep learning, between the overall artificial intelligence. And this will be possible based on certain algorithms, based on certain frameworks we have recently got, and the languages which are specifically developed for the artificial intelligence era. So
Okay.
I believe we will be exploring certain possibilities. I'll hand over to Roland to add.
Okay. Let's see. So Roland did comment. Daniel, would you like to comment anything about artificial intelligence?
Sure, that was a pretty good summary. I think the importance of it. I mean, basically, it's a system which has the ability to learn, take in new information, integrate that, and formulate decisions towards goals based on its sort of body of knowledge. So it's distinct from our traditional, basically recipe-based computer systems, which follow a series of directions and generate a specific output. The value is that artificial intelligence, at least theoretically, and in the field, they've seen some evidence that this is possible. There's instances of it happening where AI takes completely different routes to goals than almost any human operator. Famously, such as the example that always comes up is Deep Blue beating Garry Kasparov, the chess grandmaster. They say he took a totally unconventional route to do it, giving up the queen early in the game, which almost no human player would do. But a system that can act intelligently like a human operator, but free from some of our biases and sort of conventions, might be able to kind of create a new frontier of approaches to doing things, and also has computing power potentially that no single human operator would be able to have. So those are some of the benefits of it. Just to recapitulate what Jad and Roland have also described.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your responses and remarks. So, Roland, will AI make auditors superfluous in the future?
Okay, is AI going to make human auditors redundant over the long haul? I think that it's a very existing question from my point of view. The human factor will be eliminated if the audit is performed completely with AI, as we discussed right now. So AI is a completely automated system. According to ISO 19011, that may prove advantages when it comes down to the auditing principles like integrity or audit fact-based decisions making, etc. This means the technology solution is definitely not going to be impacted by likes and dislikes. Typical monitoring tasks such as checking formal conditions, I think, or respective evidence can be performed faster and in an automated manner. So a lot of aspects may actually prove helpful. For instance, audit reports can be created in an automated manner, and yeah, I
That's
have to
good.
admit that writing audit reports is not among
Yes,
my favorite activities, so I'm sorry.
I
Uh,
agree.
in my opinion,
Yeah,
completely digital performed audits are not going to render human auditors redundant. Maybe auditors will have to develop new and additional or different skills that may have to obtain a deeper and better grasp on relevant technologies and learn how to use them, as Vian said it, with deep learning things and solutions. So in this context, evaluations such as consequence of errors made by the AI solution leading to faulty audit results will need to be clarified. Who
Okay.
will be responsible if a supplier blocked because an automated evaluation or an AI system say, okay, we can't order at this supplier? Who is the data owner? And how can be data prevented from being reused for other purpose? It is necessary, from my point of view, to bear in mind that an AI system will also develop further by learning on their own, and that they will use the new data to that end. So another aspect that also has been considered yet will be situations in which senses are needed, like touch and smell. This is not available for AI systems based on the current state of art. So, or I have no information about it, so I'm sorry. Certainly, parts and components can be analyzed, but the total sum of the impressions gained by human auditors and will prove a challenge to digitalize them. Therefore, I think that AI will be an exciting support of audits in future, and it may definitely be a meaningful addition to other tools. However, I think it can't replace human auditors. It will be in tool and support, and that is my opinion.
All right, very good, very good.
Absolutely, I fully endorse, and I think there is some important aspect for us, like my friend said, as a support role. So this support role, if we see our audit life cycles today, we will acknowledge that there is a limitation as a human, that we cannot go deep into certain aspects of databases or machines or the side which is hidden from us. I think the AI has that potential to go and fetch that hidden information for us based on certain algorithms, based on certain, like one of our panelists said, moving away from bias. So we have a long list of bias. So I think the AI will sneak into it and will fetch that evidence of the audit for us, which we will review and endorse, which we will challenge and accept or not accept. This is definitely going to be our jurisdiction as an auditor. So that will make it a digital audit. I give you an example of RPA, robotic process automations. Now, one of the developers of RPA tools has recently launched a model of per robot, per bot. So we will be selling a process automated process bot. So I take an example of call recording and CDR for a telecom. So CDR audits as today is highly dependent on the information we fetch from the systems. It does not go beyond. It is very much dependent on the auditee. Now, if we somehow introduce our tools as AI-driven tools, that will definitely interact with the huge pile of data warehouses, will learn from that based on the deep learning aspects, and we tell them that these algorithms must be executed. Let's say predictive analysis, PA. PA is a very much important technology and now as part of the AI. I see a great utilization of predictive analysis in our upcoming thing. Not just AI, as a disruptive technology. I see a great role of RPA in our future digital audits. I see a great role of our additional tools which may overcome our existing lacking skills of employees. Okay, where we can see. So I think we can bundle it with certain skill-based frameworks to complement our AI, but the skills will be trained and tailored based on the existing models of AI. So we will train the AI based on our provided data and our provided models. So AI will learn and evolve and will give us opinion, not the decision. So this is a major important aspect.
Well,
Over to you.
yes. All right. Thank you so much for that. Daniel, will the assistance of AI and the decrease in human resource needs mean more companies can pursue ISO 9001?
I think it's possible. I want to just kind of tag on to the conversation we were just having there.
Oh, sure.
That the AI, while it may be kind of theoretically possible to take over at some point, I think any job is theoretically possible,
Mhm.
although it's not sort of a prime candidate. So a fully automated AI system doing your audits and quality management probably is a fairly long way off, but I do think why I proposed this question was that I think the sort of decreased person hours that may need to be required with more efficient systems. So something like an AI system which can, for example, parse out standard information. So for example, I've worked with companies in manufacturing who have a number of standards applicable to their operation,
Right.
including ISO and then sort of explosive atmospheres, safety regulations, on and on and on and on. And you have to have people who interact and understand these requirements as a sort of list of deliverables. So what AI could conceivably do and is already doing to some degree is assisting people in combing through that for what do I actually have to do based on this standard. Even for experienced auditors and quality managers,
Right.
it's at least very esoteric knowledge, right? And you use your base of experience and so on to go through and say, well, here's what they're really looking for. It doesn't tell you how to construct a risk matrix or say anything of the sort. It just says, hey, the requirement is that you've done a proper job at assessing risk and putting controls in place. Well, what the heck does that mean to an inexperienced person? AI has the advantage of being able to sort of probe, as Wajah mentioned, universal data sets. To be able to train from a body of data from companies all over the world and also draw from sort of protocols of experts. So we specify how it should approach and then sort of set it free to figure out the rest on its own.
Okay.
So where that could open the door to lots of companies doing it, one, if it becomes easier and more accessible, I mean, these programs, if they're implemented widely, may become more affordable for companies to get on board and of greater interest because now it's, well, for one thing, it's sort of the new technological frontier. You're part of these new AI rollouts and so on. A company wants to be on board with that for sure, but also not having to have the manpower people to comb through all this information, maintain it manually, keep a bunch of segregated spreadsheets with redundant information that's all falling out of date the moment it's put in. Systems that can integrate all that information and do that and offload that from our people could be a huge advantage and make, you know, like I said, I work with small and medium companies. So when you have only, you know, 4 to 10 people, who is supposed to take on that load? And they're completely diverted from it by the managers who say, okay, well, I don't need you spending days and days of time on this thing that doesn't have a kind of clear deliverable or relatively abstract.
Right. Okay. Very good. Well, we do have a few questions coming in in the chat. I'd like to go ahead and ask some of these questions. And Roland, we'll start with you. Do you rate effectiveness of remote and on-site at par to each other?
Yeah, remote and on-site. I think at first, from my point of view, it's order to differentiate and define what does it mean, remote and on-site. On-site, I think it's quite clear. We are at the customer side, or we are in fact in front of each other and can start an audit. Remote is a general way, and that it's my experience also from the companies right here in Germany. Remote is to start Microsoft Teams, WebEx, yeah, this one, what else, and start an audit. This means have a discussion. So from my point of view, that it's not a remote audit. So I'm sorry, remote audit, that's my favorite times. We have also solution. Remote audit is for me in order that you have a solution to do an audit. In fact, you were on site. This means, for instance, I have behind of me my checklist or the standards or what else. And then, of course, I can do and support the audit. This means, in fact, for instance, use also mobile phone or a tablet or data classes, something like this. You have a lot of possibilities. And the next step is, from my point of view, you have to do a kind of risk analysis, because I'm the opinion to do a remote audit. This means over a computer, IT, or data classes or what else. The auditor has to be aware about the conditions, the buildings itself. So from my point of view, it's quite necessary and important to be at least one time at the customer and see how is the area, because in afterward I can see, or if I ask you, please show me your area, what else, I think the other one will don't drop the camera on the position where we have a problem. So, and if I'm not aware, for instance, there is a door or what else, I have a problem. So that it's the risk analysis. And then, of course, I think remote audit could be a helpful tool in order to assist you, for instance, to say regarding to a supplier, are you able to fulfill my requirements regarding quality? And then, of course, we can go forward. But the most important thing is to define remote audit. And this could be, or in that case, AI systems could be quite helpful in order to analyze the picture, in order to give me as an auditor, for instance, by artificial intelligence or augmented reality input, please check this or what else. And then, of course, it makes sense to me, because then, of course, I'm focused. You ask me a question, I answer to you, but the automated system makes an, for instance, augmented reality and highlight, or please don't forget to look at this side or what else. And this makes sense.
Good points. Very good points.
Absolutely. I
Wajahat?
think the augmented reality and especially the hologram as the overall concept is about the disruptive technologies, not just the AI. So the few other technologies which are going to support and assist the remote audits. And I would like to add few more points about the value proposition which remote audit brings is the amount of experience which an auditor possesses, and that auditor is just unique, and his own personal exposure in that particular subject is the actual value. He may be in Europe and he is unable to travel to Middle East, and now the global reachability because of remote audit is possible. We have seen so exposed and experienced auditor now available for us because of the acceptance and adaptability culture of being remote. Now, I'm currently in Middle East, and I can tell you this is such a great value we have got, because it was quite a culture not to actually think beyond the parameter or the area. So geographical boundaries were kind of our limitations.
Right.
Now, when the whole world has adopted the culture of being remote, we were the early adopters in Middle East. We have seen this tremendous potential of growth, and you will see very soon in numbers as well that certain Middle Eastern countries are actually improving their quality because of now the new opportunities arise because of the remoteness. Okay.
Yes, I
Cost
agree.
effectiveness is another benefit.
Right.
We have so much saved money and time and effort and exertion, which were actually not happening. We were used to have just one or two auditors for a huge large scope for one of the biggest companies of oil and gas in the world over here. Now we have more than 10 audit panelists with certain disruptive technologies in the same scope. Now that's I believe is a great value. And guess what? The cost is still the same. So so now we got a different point of view as well, right? I think it's something we be always looking for. Yes.
Okay. All right, Daniel, what about you as far as the effectiveness of remote and on-site and remote and on-site? What's your take on that?
So I've done a lot of both. The last couple of years I've been auditing from this room mainly. So it has the advantages, as the other guys have said, of being, it kind of opens the doors geographically for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in an area that I service the whole province, but there's portions of the province that are 15-hour drive away, which a client is being asked to pay for, and then hotels, flights, whatever else.
Right, right.
Somewhat recently, I was working with a company, and their quality manager, I was sort of coaching along to do some process improvement on their end. And on our last session, after having sat down for maybe about 20 hours, I said, is it still raining over there? I looked out the window and it was raining, and he said, oh no, I'm in Buenos Aires. I didn't realize he was on a different continent than me this whole time we'd been talking.
Wow.
But I mean, it's a testament to the fact that these technologies are so effective
Yes.
that I just managed to overlook that entire time we're talking. So
Right. Right.
there are pros and cons, and companies that are well organized to share their data, things are already sort of in a digital medium. It's just a matter of handing over the keys, and I can kind of go through everything. And it doesn't have the same kind of ticking clock. I can go through over a number of weeks, whatever, instead of having to, you know, have somebody sequestered to chaperone me around their sites.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
On the other hand, as you guys have pointed out as well, it makes the process a little bit easy to game. I'm sort of limited to a checklist. If there's things they don't want me to see, I'm not going to be able to see, right? Without
I know.
they're like, hey, wait, turn that back around.
That's right. I think, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to somewhat limit my view. So that is the downside. And also, you get to appreciate over time that there is a value to being face to face. As good as these technologies are, the flow of a conversation is a little bit different, and the interaction rapport you gain with people is a little different.
Okay, let's see. We have another question here. Should AI autonomous decision making be considered where human safety is a primary issue? So just chime. Who would like to start with their remarks on that question?
I can start with that because safety is sort of my other discipline. So I do quality and safety. So this is an extremely good question, right? It's one that has come to the forefront of the discussion about autonomous driving vehicles.
Yes.
Is basically, at what point are we willing to take the steering wheel out of the car? It's sometimes called a level 5 autonomous vehicle, right? So we right now are not even close to that, as much as you know, media releases and so on. The discussion about it makes you think this could be happening in a number of weeks.
Yeah.
We are quite far away.
Quite far
from putting our trust in these vehicles, but there is, at least theoretically, a number of benefits to being able to have again, an unbiased machine system that doesn't develop bad habits and can interact with the vehicles around it on the road. There's still a perception hurdle that we haven't even come close to tackling. So while there, even in my home province here, there are autonomous vehicles used on things like mining sites.
Really?
Have kind of clearly mapped areas and boundaries, and there's not a lot of foot traffic up in northern Alberta. So safety is relatively a low concern. So I guess, sorry, to sort of go back to what the question was, is eventually I think the answer is yes, because there's a good possibility that AI systems could be superior to a human operator in making safety sensitive decisions. It draws from a bigger body of data. It has fewer biases, although I want to kind of catch myself, because it is entirely possible for neural network based AI systems to develop bias as well. So at least in the short term, we have to have human operators and experts, specialists, to oversee their decision making to make sure this is right, this needs correction, because they're sort of reward and punishment based fine tuning, but the punishment when we're talking about safety is somebody getting hurt, something getting damaged, or a fatality. So that's much too high a cost to tolerate even a single instance. So we have to sort of go on the right choices, but which are abstract. We have to sort of use a specialist judgment to say this is what would have happened if you hadn't done this. But that verges into hypothetical. So AI systems are poor at making that kind of judgment.
Okay, Wajahat, would you like to? Yes, thank you.
I would like to add a lot of actually aspects which we need to consider is that there is a whole different lot of risk types which will be emerged because of the AI. And we have certain areas to make sure that the macro risk categories, such as strategic and environmental risks, such as business risk and the operational risk, I mean, these are the major areas. And if you go in deep, you will have risks because of the AI. And this is
Yes.
absolutely very relevant clause in recent time. We have seen a major upgrade in our ISO 9000 standard, where
Mm-hmm.
we are talking about risk and opportunities. So
Mm-hmm.
a very strong risk register culture because of ISO 9000 is now a mandatory part. And if the AI is going to bring its own risk, how we are going to handle them? It's not just about safety. There was a remote discussion going on even previously before. So we had the confidentiality risks as well because of the remote audits. And now if we see certain very specific to the data, the AI will have the direct access to the data, and it
Mm-hmm.
will learn and it will also self-evolve. I give you certain algorithmic examples such as supervised learning and unsupervised learning. It's one of the key part of AI, which I predict that it will be like we are currently very much addicted to computers. Soon supervised
Mm-hmm.
learning, NLP, natural language processing, these all aspects will be part of our auditing techniques. Now, how we are going to handle that new risk coming because of them? And at the very same time, for example, I give you example that somebody is going to corrupt the data which AI has produced.
Hmm.
That for sure is because there will be ethics issue which will prevail. And there is a whole lot of AI leadership which is required to make the AI's ethics and standards, how AI is going to evolve, how AI is going to behave with us, how AI is going to hide things, how AI
Mm-hmm.
is going to present to us. Now, this is something exactly just like our brain is working. Now, if we are going to treat AI up to that auto learning mode, it will evolve to a stage where it will bring a whole new challenges just like other humans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a stage which is not that far away. We have seen this
Okay.
behavior. So I think machine learning and the algorithms related to machine learning, I'm just going to give you a few examples. I
Okay.
just noted down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for example, our very much strong area about uh, uh, anti-money laundering laws. That is another area where AI can easily help us over there. Now, that data is easily available for the deep learning. For example, our privacy attacks, data privacy attack, because now the AI has the access to our very private data. For
Mm-hmm.
example,
Mm-hmm.
our uh, uh, data which we have trained, as I discussed before, there will be models of the AI, and
Right.
so as there will be the data produced because of the AI, so
Mm-hmm.
we can expect some poisoning related to the data. That's
Yes.
for sure. This
Mm-hmm.
is something similar to corrupting the data, something about the poisoning the data. So these
Mm-hmm.
are the risks which will come because of the AI as well.
Okay.
We can
Okay.
also expect that there will be theft of models, AI models. So we call them
Mm-hmm.
extraction.
Mm-hmm.
So can we handle such new born risk because of the AI? I think this is something we also need to discuss and debate.
Okay. Well, thank you, Roland. Would you like to comment on that?
Um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
frankly spoken, I thought at first I will answer to Daniel, but right now I have in mind the movie
Mm-hmm.
Terminator regarding
Okay.
AI systems. But
Absolutely.
okay, regarding Daniel, he said raining, or you said, sorry, a health or something like this. And based on this,
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree because, of course, it could be in purpose for us because I stay in my office, I work here, I can support other systems and will do also my work. So, of course, this will be absolutely helpful. Or I don't want to say it, COVID-19, the
Mm-hmm.
risk reduction. I don't have to travel or something like this. I can stay at home or in my
Mm-hmm.
office. What else? On the other hand, I have to say regarding, as you said, Gerhard, risk and how to handle it, one strategy in order to go forward is also, and I have to say I like this kind of solution, is to accept the risk. So, and this is also in line with the standard 9001, chapter 6.1. I can accept it. From my point, I say the most important risk, this risk which I'm not aware about it. And therefore, as you said also right now regarding AI systems or something like this, I think it will be in future a tool and relevant tool. Of course, it could help us, but we have to be aware what are the benefits or what are the risks. And therefore,
Right.
of course, we can discuss regarding cost benefit analysis, of course, remote audits. I have all of this data. Yes, there is a value, but in fact, in line with the standard 9001, we have to consider what is the risk, what are the opportunities, and then we can go forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. And I appreciate all of your knowledge and your comments on that subject. So I have another question. How is will AI be able to, can we get objective evidence of audits in perspective of site visits, gauging the awareness as carried out physically by an auditor? Daniel, go right ahead.
Okay. What I believe they're asking there, it's a good question again, is that at what point can we replace the, as Roland pointed out, the sort of sense dependent requirements of an auditor, where we do the mechanical parts that are really like that translates easily into what a computer can process. But when do we get to the point where they can process what's at site, where, you know, how is the work environment, and that kind of thing, like, which is relevant because that's evaluated in the standard as well. I think, again, it's like many other things I've kind of touched on, theoretically possible, but far away. And the problem is that there are systems where machines can sense in some sense, right? They can install cameras, range finders, chemical detectors and so on, not that different than what we would use to make the same assessments of the site. The problem is they can't meaningfully take that data and perceive it. So that means, do they go from an image that they've captured with a camera to say, this is a adequate or inadequate environment for such and such an activity? At least they're not very good at making that assessment in the way that a person would. So while I think it's theoretically possible, and maybe there's some future in which we have robots actually beeping and booping around a site, taking pictures and sending them back, it raises the question of, does that create any value? And I mean, that is the main thing with AI implementation is, number one, is this a good task for AI to take over? Is this something that AI could conceivably do better than a human operator? And in some aspects of quality, I think the answer is yes, and others no. But also, for the resources needed and the manpower needed and so on to like produce and deliver and operate machinery to do that kind of thing, hypothetically, have your Terminator marching around somebody's work site, probably at the end of the day is more work than just sending a person to do it, right? So it's neat and newfangled and it's technological, but does it have any value? And I always say to my clients, when it comes to quality in particular, if it's not doing any work, get rid of it.
Absolutely.
I think that applies here.
Excellent. I would like to add a few more examples, such as we have recently seen a great adoption of AI algorithms in video surveillance. Now, video surveillance is like our clothes as of today, and that's available on every site. You have the cameras and the data is available, the video data. Now we have also seen a great new enhancement in the auditing culture and ethics, that being a remote auditor like all of us, we have requested complete videos for us. Now that means our reliance on the videos were big time, not just the remote webcam. We literally requested the videos to be either uploaded and provided. Now here comes another aspect, which has been actually the main question, that can we trust on the evidences which have been produced either because of the AI or because of the digital drive which we have got now. The new audit is not just about checklist and the copy pen and our physical interaction. We have now different type of digital evidences, which is in the scan form, which is in the video form. Now we have a bad news that these all evidences are temperable. They all actually, we have seen them in big time, that the fake, deep fake, this is the biggest threat I believe you can assume as of today. Not even a single president of any country is now safe from this thing. We have seen videos which have brought the misinformation and disinformation. Now where does the AI help us in it? It's the AI which produced it, and it will be the AI which will audit it. You can have another two major changes prediction from I believe all of us will be agreeing upon, that the risk maturity frameworks need to be evolved in the digital era now. The 9001 must have some enhancement based on the digital audits. Second is the risk maturity frameworks by itself needs an evolution because of the disruptive technologies coming. Now you have the whole reliance of your evidence on the video, and the video is deepfake. Now who is going to signate, who is going to challenge it, who is going to audit this evidence? Now that requires a whole new line of auditing tools to be produced, which will be AI complemented. And yet they are ISO 9000 compliant, because the beauty of ISO 9000 to the 15 is it's so generally written that it can fit into any environment.
That's
Still,
right.
it's a risk, right?
Yes, there you go.
Please.
That is so
But
true.
I can
Yes.
expect that I can expect that there will be an enhancement in the family of ISO 9000 standards, where we may have a homework done for digital code of practice for ISO 9000.
Okay, very good. Very good. Roland, would you like to comment on this objectivity we need?
Yeah, thank you, because I fully agree, and I will link to the standard, because based on Daniel's and Wyatt's response, I think absolutely this will be in future a competence, chapter 7.2, because auditors will have the competences in order to have an and feeling, and also the conscious in order to how act in this field, or which kind of tool I will use, especially AI systems. So I think the competencies in this field will be absolutely important in the future.
Right. Very good. Very good, gentlemen. Thank you for that. So we have another question. It's about GDPR, how AI can ensure general data protection regulation data is intellectual property of the organization.
Can I take this question?
Oh, sure, sure.
Sure. Well, to be honest, we have seen so many new standards about the privacy. ISO has recently launched 27701, amazing standard, highly recommended to adopt the privacy information management systems, which is the evolution because of our ISO 27001 and a couple of other security standards as well. And we have physical security standards as well. They all are producing the somehow frameworks related to the PII, which is a personal identifiable information, and this information requires a whole different sort of skill, like one of our panelists emphasized on it. So the competence of the audit has to be evolved. We have disruptive technologies at one side, and we have cultural changes happening. And as a human, our changes, our needs are getting evolved and getting different. Privacy is for sure in limelight right now, and it will be in next 5 years. Till 5 years, we will have tremendous issues because of the new disruptive technologies coming. Today, we are now addicted to Facebook, which is 7 years back, we were treating it our privacy issue. Our information was happening. Now, we also need to rewrite our privacy definition.
Right.
That for sure will have an impact on the classification of the information as well. That will also have an impact because of the certain laws and regulations coming. Now, GDPR, and it was kind of a mother of standards for the privacy. Now we are seeing regulations coming almost all across the globe. 70% of the countries in the world have got certain level of privacy regulations now, or it is for sure for the traveling industry. And now immediately after COVID, we will see a major focus in the travel industry about the privacy and certain aspects of the GDPR. Now the issue comes is the level of adoption. Countries are not ready actually from the laws perspective to challenge for the data which is originated in Europe and moving over here in Middle East. What law will actually support them to punish or to criminalize or penalize in a country where the data was not born, right? So this alignment requires an international sort of a alliance, and I think the new ISO standard is a great starting point for the privacy to set a culture of privacy, which is a serious issue as of now.
Right.
Now, moving towards the digital audit about the privacy, again, it will bring a great new opportunity of having evolved audit tools. You cannot do the privacy audits based on the traditional auditing techniques.
Right.
Your data is the backbone of the privacy, and you cannot even read the data. It's in binary format. It requires a thorough machine learning algorithms. And I give you a few examples of the algorithms which are very much recommended now for auditors to learn, adopt, and to start using them. For example, we have a decision tree algorithm, which is coming under supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning, and reinforcement learning part of the machine learning. Okay, I see a great adoption of forecast algorithms, which is based on the random forecast. ANN, artificial neural networks, amazing actually contribution you can see in the near future because of the ANN. RNN, you will definitely have a strong adoption of RNN based algorithms in our auditing tools. We recently saw a great, I'm not going to discuss certain auditing tools, but I've been so impressed because of the early USPs introduced because of the new auditing tools after the digital drive and after the pandemic, that there were some evidences focusing on the video. Okay, that was considered as a mandatory part of the remote audits, and the thorough new version of the software were launched to accommodate and adjust. You can also now expect that these audit tools will be evolved based on the AI, and the privacy will be an additional use case of it. So I think I made sense.
Okay, yes, thank you. Roland or Daniel, would you like to provide some more input on that?
In addition, I think AI regarding GDPR will have in future more relevance, because regarding GDPR, I see it also in relevance for an other field, which I think it's quite important. We have also a new standard there, that is compliance management, 37001 and 37301. So especially in Europe or in Germany, I see a rising demand on this. Therefore, I think such kind of systems could help the auditor to identify topics which are relevant, which probably my first impression said, oh, it's everything okay. So based on this, to analyze the situation, to analyze the data in order to get feedback, how to do the evaluation, I think such kind of systems could be absolutely helpful in future.
Okay, Daniel, did you have any remarks, comments on that?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, most of the focus of Roland Wajahat said is regulation based, and it's good to have those in place. So that's sort of your governance part. But the question remains of how do you practically ensure that your privacy and your data is going to remain safe in the process? So I think the question implied by how that questioner phrased that question was, are things made less secure by using AI tools? In my opinion, it's no less secure than doing a remote audit. So I'm able to access a company's data remotely. They either use a cloud-based service or whatever. I get it from my home. So I don't see the introduction of AI as a tool as making that any less secure, provided those systems are secure. But you know, as AI is adopted, one of the kind of key areas that it probably will be put to use is cybersecurity, because that moves so fast. Intrusion detection and attempts to basically access data externally will be easier to detect using that kind of technology. And having our security, I mean, right now, a lot of companies rely on training people. Don't open this if it gets emailed to you. If somebody calls and asks for your password, don't give it to them. Hackers long ago realized that trying to go through the code was cumbersome, and there was a much easier way in. All they had to do was call and ask for the keys. So I think that this, I mean, our remote audit situation, as well as implementation of AI, just like integration of any new technology, has to come along with a fully thought out security strategy to make sure that that stuff does remain protected end to end, and it's, you know, properly disposed of afterwards and not left on some unsecured thumb drive at somebody's home office.
Right.
So we may have to kind of look at that. So that's sort of the other part of it, on top of the governance part, because, you know, there's a law against stealing my bike, but if I leave it out in the front, it's history, right?
Yes.
You still have to think about the practical sort of implementation of those.
Right, right. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Next question. Does an external auditor need to have ISO 9001 certification? If yes, how can this be done?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Yes,
please.
does an external auditor need to have ISO 9001 certification? If yes, how can this be done?
Okay, go ahead, Roland.
No, please, up to you,
Mhm.
Daniel.
I will
This
definitely, I will again
a
take
very
it if you
general.
allow. Yes,
Sorry.
that's
I'll
exactly
talk.
what I was about to say. Please carry on.
I'll field this. It's a very general question, easy to get out of the way. At present, yes, you need to have a lead auditor certification. It's available from a number of registrars around the world, depending where you are. It's easy to do, can be done online or in person. And internal auditors have to have some evidence of competence to evaluate quality management systems. I hope that fields that question.
Or in additional way, in order regarding the standards based on the ISO 9001, I have to say, based on chapter 7.2, up to you. There's not exactly any competence what you need, because in a company or something like this, the board of directors decide who is an auditor. Based on the ISO 19011, the auditor needs competences, and especially as an external auditor, because in Germany is this the way. If I would like, if I'm interested in to work as an external auditor, I can say tomorrow, okay, I'm a freelancer, I will work as an auditor, I can do this. There is no rule what I have to follow or something like this. So the only thing is, if a company is looking for an auditor, the proof of evidence, like a certificate from a company like PCB. Are you a lead auditor by PCB or something like this? Then of course I have a proof of evidence. If I have nothing such this, I have probably a homepage or what else, and therefore I think the question is, do you need it? Depends. I would like to say it's quite relevant, because it's at least a proof of evidence.
Yes. Wajaha?
Absolutely. I think the journey starts after the getting the certification, which is the mandatory part. The exposure and the experience in the field matters a lot. It is not just about getting a piece of paper. It is also getting about the relevant expertise. Having a knowledge of auditing is one area, and at the very same time, having a subject matter expertise is another important aspect, which is very much relevant to the competencies part. Moreover, there is another serious issue about how you actually got interacted with external audit body. Now, and in which particular role you were performing earlier, there is a chance of conflict of interest that you are not authorized to actually conduct the audit. So this is another aspect we need to take good care of. And I think in the new digital life of the audits, this issue will become more serious, because the access to information and numerous type of remote engagements and the freelance engagements have actually exposed us to certain level of restriction for the auditing practices. I think this will be a serious a dot or a point on the certification bodies who have to actually come up with a level of ethics for it, level of their own internal standards.
Okay. Well, we have about 4 minutes left, gentlemen, and I do have one other question here, and we can see if we can provide our audience an answer. Is there no communication at all with the auditee, even in a remote audit? How does AI come to play? And I'll read that again. Is there no communication at all with the auditee, even in a remote audit? How does AI come to play? Daniel?
Yes, please.
Hmm?
Okay, I can jump on this one. There's plenty of communication regardless of how you do the audit. It's sort of the primary part. So you do a lot of document review, but interview is also sort of a valid method. Interviews and observations of both interacting with people and seeing their work environment, to sort of see how closely they're adhering to the standard and their own procedures. So there's interaction throughout. Every time I do an audit, it's on a daily basis, meeting with different folks to kind of get their take on how things are operating. It's especially important because the 9001 standard is light on specified documentation. This must be a document titled this sort of thing. It's not that prescriptive.
Right.
So if you get a sense that they're managing risk, but that's sort of a bad example, but I mean that they're meeting these requirements, not necessarily by using documentation that you can look at and review. That's still acceptable. You just have to document your evidence, like why you came to that assessment.
Right.
In terms of how AI can be applicable, both in remote and in-person audits, is for one thing, it helps go through a mountain of paperwork. I spend a whole lot of time reading policies and procedures that make your eyes glaze over. That's not exactly captivating reading, but necessary.
Exactly.
You have to read it with a level of focus and understanding that you're getting what you need out of it. You're just trying, for a human attention span, but less so for AI. So an NLP, natural language processing application that was effective can parse out that data and bring you part of the relevant parts.
Okay.
Or help you kind of do a smart search to find what you need. So that's one of the ways that
Okay.
You could process data.
All right. Well, we have about 1 more minute, and I'd like for Roland and Wajahat both to comment. So, Roland, you have something you'd like to add to that?
Quite short. I think communication, it's the main part in auditing. So the ISO 9001 is much more than only documents, review, something like this. Audit to listen. We have to communicate, and I think that it's the most important thing, especially if we discuss together misleading of the answer and something like this. So I think communication will be one of the competences. That's from my point of view the main competence, the the most important competence of an auditor. And so I think that is quite important.
Okay, very good. Waja?
Yes, I think there is a serious issue in organizations about the adaptability of the AI in the auditing. They are quite worried and they don't want to get exposed. They think that the AI is going to expose and unleash, whereas this is totally against what auditing is all about. Auditing is actually the process of self-improvement and self-healing. So on one side, you expect that auditor brings the value and all that stuff, and the other side, you try to stop the AI coming into your organization. This obviously will be a serious sort of a fight. Now, I highly encourage organizations to rely or have a baby step about RPA adoption, which is the robotic process automation in certain audit procedures. At the very same time, certain organizational procedures, so and give the auditor access to those RPAs or the bots, so that our auditing quality by itself can get improved. So I think this is something we need to encourage as a
Okay.
culture in the organization. As a message, I would love to promote this one.
Okay, well, gentlemen, our time is up, and I tell you, this has been so enlightening for me because I really haven't gotten into the AI side, and just to hear all of your knowledge, oh my, it's intriguing, and I'm looking forward to listening to this recording so I can take notes. So just be prepared for me to reach out to you when I have some questions. So
Anytime.
this has been
Definitely.
very
And
good,
I
very
believe
good.
if there are few questions which are left behind, do you have
Hmm.
any way to communicate it to us? We are happy to answer even after the session.
Okay.
Mhm.
We are welcome to reply even over the chat and over the emails if somebody has shared the question and we could not answer.
Right. Well, you know what? I will make sure I get with a PCB and inquire about that and let you know. So thank you again. Thanks to PCB for this quality conference. It has just been wonderful. I've participated both days, and thank you for the audience. Thank you for the panelists. This has just been excellent. And so everyone, wherever you are, I know we have so many time zones. Have a great day. Have a very great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you maybe again next year.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks again,
Definitely. I
everyone.
hope to see you all before next year. Thank
Okay.
you.